to kind of walk us through and facilitate.
Great. Thank you, Heather. And thank you to all of our community members who are here today. We are very appreciative of your time. I can't thank you enough for spending the next however long it takes to go through some of these important questions as it relates to the next police chief. I'm going to be sharing with you a few very brief slides. So bear with me while I pull that up right now. Make sure I get the right screen. Here we go. Okay. Hopefully everyone's able to see the community engagement police chief June 22nd slide. Okay, great. So with that being said, wanted to provide a high level overview of where we currently are in our community engagement process. This is a month-long journey where we wanted to ensure that we could capture as many voices from the community as possible. So we opened an online survey on June 1st. After that point, we've had 2 in-person meetings. Last week, we had one in English and one in Spanish. We were able to provide both Spanish translation services at both of those meetings. And now this week, we'll be having our virtual meetings. So today's event is primarily in English, but we do have Maria available for anyone that needs those translation services. And then tomorrow, we'll have our Spanish virtual meeting with Spanish primary, but if someone wants English translation services, we will be providing those as well. And then the last step of this process is the June 30th closure of the online survey. So again, just want to highlight that the questions in the survey are going to be the same questions that we discussed today. The value of the responses are not going to be weighted differently from online versus in-person versus virtual. We just want the community's input. And so what we will do as a team, as a city staff team, is compile all the responses, analyze the data, and then present those to our city manager, and then inform him of the key themes with respect to this very important position. Any questions on that before we get started on the actual questions? I don't believe I see any questions, so let me go ahead and get started with the first question. So what is the City of Napa Police Department doing well? And we left these questions open-ended because we wanted to hear directly from the community with what they felt they wanted to provide in the online or in the in-person survey. So happy to hear from you all.
I would say people that you can go ahead and unmute yourself and provide comments verbally, or you can put them in the chat to Gabby or MJ, and those will be captured as well. So please feel free to go ahead and mute or unmute yourself. If you're not familiar with Zoom, the mute button should be at the bottom left-hand corner.
Thank you.
Anybody would like to make comments on our first question and provide any input about what the City of Napa Police Department is doing well?
Yes.
Go ahead, Liz.
I don't know all the details, but I've been a social worker for a very long time. I can't even add up the number of years right now. But it seems to me like the city police deal with the homeless issue here very well, because I don't read in the paper the kinds of things I've read in other city papers about dealing with the homeless. And I'm pleased about that, because obviously we have a lot of homeless people here. So.
Thank you, Liz.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm with Zapolsky Real Estate. We own about 3 blocks in downtown, and Todd sent me an email, so that's how I found out about this. I don't know how well this was advertised, to be honest. I think that's one thing we could do better, but overall, I think that you guys are fairly responsive. You do the best you can with the resources you have. And I've always been impressed with the officers we have in the community, their temperaments, their caring, their kindness, and the way they handle themselves. So I think that we don't really have any bad apples, which is, like she said, the stuff we read in papers. I think we have a really great group of folks that work here in this community.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, we're very thankful of our folks in the police department.
I'll go next. My name is Kathy Odom, and I think I want to say that the service level in an emergency when you call 911 and you need someone is usually, I live across from Vintage High, and it's usually people doing burnouts, people they were riding trucks or quad runners, or it's been kind of crazy with COVID and everything. But I had to call 911 about a month ago. There was a guy outside my kid's window running down the street. He had a knife saying he was going to kill someone. We called 911. We had 4 cop cars come there within just a few minutes. They were checking everything out, and they were there for us when we needed them. And it's kind of how the whole city does when there's an emergency, when there's a fire, when there's a flood, there's an earthquake. Everyone is trained to come during that emergency, and people don't realize how that important that is until that emergency happens.
Thank you, Kathy. Wow, what a powerful example. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I know we do have our council member, Narvaez. I'm not sure if you want to participate or just want to listen in, but happy to offer the opportunity if you have any thoughts. Or we can just move on to the next question then. Okay. I'll be moving on to question number 2. And thank you all for those responses. Very, very helpful in this initiative. So second question, what are the City of Napa Police Department's opportunities for improvement? And if anyone's feeling ready to answer that, we'd be happy to unmute yourself.
Well, clearly it's budget constraints that dictate this, but I think, probably when the 4 police officers ran to Vintage, we probably didn't have a whole lot left driving around. So certainly we'd like to see more shifts and more officers, I think, in the community. And we understand the budget constraints. But I know in downtown, sometimes we don't have an officer when we need one during the day. And most of our problems are minor. So we don't have any knives or any guys running down the street most of the time. But certainly we'd like to see more officers in the community as budgets allow.
Got it. Good feedback.
Maybe sorry, if I can ask a question on that. When I worked there, it was almost 15 years ago, but we had, I think, 78 sworn officers. So I wanted to know, how many do we have now? We have less? The less or same, or how many officers per shift, or is it, since I left in 15 years, is it less officers, or what do we have?
Great question.
Go ahead, City Manager.
So the number of officers is pretty close to the same as what it was at that time. The how they're deployed has been changed, and also the use of community service officers and other online reporting and other stuff to pull call volume. But the physical number of bodies out on the street is about the same. The shortage right now is we had several people leave the department during the past year. We had several retirements, and we had quite a few who did not make it through their training program as well. So those positions were frozen as people left. We are, a week and a half short of starting a new budget where we're going to start during next fiscal year. We have those positions coming back on as we can hire them, and then we'll get our numbers back up to where they were at before. So.
Okay, and then what are we at now, Steve? 60 or 70 people that are employed, or how many openings do we have?
I don't. Sylvia, do you know the number off the top of your head? I think we're
about 8 short.
Okay, so about 8. Okay.
Yeah, right. And I do think there's a really, while this might be a little bit of an off-ramp from what we're trying to achieve here, I think it's important to speak about that the city took real strong measures to ensure the financial stability of the city through COVID. We did some freezing, and now we are thawing those positions in a way that doesn't overly tax HR. It doesn't overly tax the training program. And I think it's really important to call out that we are examining the organization and those positions where we can hire real talent that may not be a sworn officer. We're working toward filling those positions with professional staff. And I think that's a move that we're seeing across this nation. We likely are, and quite often get more talent for really a greater cost savings for the city.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks for asking that.
Thank you, Kathy. Yes, Liz.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I did not get a chance to look at the survey ahead of time, so I don't know what questions are to come. So that's part of how I'm like looking at this question and going, well, what's going to come along? What are the questions that will come along after this? Because I don't really know what the city is doing right now, but I worked at the Napa Mental Health Crisis Service back in 1980, 79, 80 to 82, under Jim Featherstone. And we used to actually go out and do ride-alongs with officers. And in terms of dealing with some domestic violence and, you know, some issues around mental health, it was pretty amazing. And I don't know what's happening with that nowadays, but it seems, of course, by the things we look at in the news, that there's many places trying to put that kind of thing in place. And I'm just wondering where Napa Police Department is about that now.
And just to clarify on that, Liz, you mean in terms of the mental health support or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we do have a robust relationship with mental health clinicians. And what I'm hearing from you, Liz, is you want us to strengthen how we pair clinicians and police officers out in the field. Is that the area for improvement that you're suggesting?
Yes, I don't know what's happening at this point, but it's certainly, that was a long, long time ago and I was much younger, but I could really see the value in being there with the officer, because there were times definitely that, the officer wasn't quite sure what to do and I was able to de-escalate the situation. So that's what I'm just wondering. I don't know what's going on now. I know you said you hired more community officers and hopefully they have a little more training in how to de-escalate people or deal with mental health issues.
Yeah, and we do have a clinician that is out with us, extraordinary. We have access to clinicians. So you're an early adopter of that idea, Liz.
That was Jim Featherstone, which I'm sure many of the people on here know. So
good to hear. So I'm hearing you want us to strengthen that or build it even stronger.
Well, it seems like today, what we're hearing in the news, that all police departments need more of that, at least the officers training or having more mental health availability.
Got it. Thank you.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Liz. All right. We're cruising along. There are 5 questions, so just know that. And now we're on to question number 3. What are some of the unique characteristics of the City of Napa community that the new police chief will need to be aware of? Who would like to take a first crack at that?
So
Yes,
what we're sort
thank
of
you,
looking
Liz.
for here is, are there things about Napa that it would be important for the chief to know and to be successful?
Please, Liz. Yeah.
I didn't expect there to be so few people, so I didn't expect to be, putting my input in so much. But I certainly think that there's a characteristic of the difference of Napa being a tourist town Because from, again, my resources now are only paper or my clients. I have a private practice business here, and I hear a lot of things from my clients. But that some of the problems that come up are definitely from tourists, coming here, drinking too much, whatever. But I think it brings a different dynamic into Napa than it does many other smaller communities. So.
Got it. So the visitors, tourist industry, so to speak. Thank you, Liz. Kelly, do you?
I was going to say, I agree with Liz. We've got our tourists, we've got a multitude of folks with different agendas here in the community, whether it's, here to do wine tasting, whether it's shopping, whether it's coming to, be in an agriculture community. And then there's the rest of us who are working, commuting, traveling, trying. You've got people who are thrilled to have the tourists. They pay our bills. There are those people that don't like the tourists. And so I think we're a blue collar community with affluence. It's a very unique dynamic. You've got a little bit of everything. And we're growing very quickly as a city with lots of folks. And, we're increasing in our crime and in people coming in from out of town with agendas other than being a tourist or being a good neighbor. We've had robberies of folks driving in and doing smash and grabs. I mean, we've become a very strange dynamic in the last couple years. So it's just, it's not Oakland, but it's not Mayberry either. We've got those weird one-offs. Something big happens every so often.
Yeah, that's.
I think they'll find the communities behind them. So that's a nice thing.
It's a great point as well, the support from our community. Thank you, Kelly. Kathy, would you like to share your thoughts on this one?
This is a hard question. It's a lot, maybe just to kind of have someone come in, go over the history, what the chief has done, kind of go over what the last couple chiefs have done, how they have run things, kind of see how this new chief would run things. I made he saw me drawing, I was making a little diagram here, which you're probably not going to be able to see. It looks like it's too blurry, but it's kind of like the chief is kind of like in the middle of a stop sign, like a hexagon, and then each facet, each side is a different group. And you're going to have the city manager, the mayor, the council members, your PD sworn, your PD non-sworn, your city department heads, like your local citizens, commerce, elks, and then like your Napa schools. So it's a very difficult job. To me, I see it as the hardest of the jobs at the City of Napa because you have so many different faces and facets of people and groups that you have to respond to within the whole city.
Yeah, everybody has an agenda and a need, and they all want to be on the top of the list. That's something that Steve did very well, was be available to the community and meet with groups. And I know Sylvia's done that while she's been here, and I know that Judge Chief Plummer did as well, and it's appreciated. But it's hard to balance those folks.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard to find someone who can do all that and do it really well and do it for our town and make things better here.
So the kind of multifaceted, multidimensional stakeholder groups in the community.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very, very political job. And also be a police officer and do things internally and deal with the mayor and the other employees and department heads, and it's a lot.
That's great. Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
All right. The fourth, second to last question we have. What are the top 3 challenges the new police chief will face in their first year on the job? And if you can only think of one really big one, that's perfectly okay too. But I think we just thought top 3 be a nice number. Who's ready with some challenges for the next police chief?
I'll go ahead and start. This is Kathy. I'd say probably one of the hardest things to do. I mean, obviously, besides getting here, learning the town, learning how everything works, it's going to be difficult to bring order and change in to Napa. Napa is very resistant to doing that. And then you're also going to be kind of running up a problem with the young 20-year-olds, like in the Black Lives Matter and the Napa Stop Hate group. They want everything done and changed like today. And they don't understand how government works and how things take time, and you have to work on things and do policies and everything else. So that's going to be, but I was thinking about it, it's going to be a challenge of any new police chief right now. Anyone in the next year or two, it's a big tumultuous time going from how things were done before last year, 5 years or 10 years, to how things are going today and being progressive. And it's going to be a conflict between who wants to do what when.
Got it. So that kind of that not struggle, but kind of the conflict between balancing the progressive need of certain stakeholder groups, but also
Yes.
the more traditional view on it.
Yes. So that the police chief will need to, I mean, I don't want to say placate people, but the chief needs to, to listen and have groups and do something forming and lasting. Not just have like the past chief had like a meeting and something, and then it kind of just petered out and people got really mad at him.
That's great, Kathy. And, just on that same vein, what do you think are some good opportunities that the next police chief would be able to, gather some of that feedback from the community?
I scour Facebook and Nextdoor on a daily basis to see how things are going, to kind of get a feel of things how they're going on in the town. And that might be something your social media, I think Steve Potter has someone in his office, maybe something that they can do and look at as well.
It's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd be happy to, if there's stuff that comes over, I'd be happy to send it to you.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Kathy. I think, one thing that did happen during the unrest was the communication to the downtown community wasn't what it could be. So we knew that we were going to be okay and safe. It was, who are these people? And they're coming from Oakland, or they're coming into the community and they're making threats on Facebook. And so I think it's really challenging when people want some assurance of what's going on and to have good communication. I think being preemptive, and, I know that you can't, as an organization, police organization, always tell all the people what your moves are. I understand that, but just making sure that we have some knowledge of, should we be boarding up windows? That was a question we got as property owners regularly and couldn't answer. It was, the police will do their job when the time comes, and don't worry, and we'll let you know. Watch Twitter.
You need to go to Home Depot to get the plywood. It's going to run out. You only have so much plywood per town. Yeah.
Earthquake was a good example of plywood.
So I hear almost over communicate.
Downtown Napa does have a system to communicate to downtown, and I'm sure that also the retailers on Saw School and others are in tune with that. But when we have marchers in downtown, it's just helpful to know what's going on. I think, other challenges are, we just have a changing community. We're going from a small community where not a lot happens to people seeing us as a great place to come and commit crimes, whether it's stealing catalytic converters, stealing merchandise, stealing cars. I mean, you talk to the locals, and I've only lived here 20 years, so I'm by no means a local. We leave the doors unlocked, and I'm like, yeah, I remember that, but it wasn't here. So it's just the changing, evolving times. The world is not as safe as we used to think it is. So, just communicating and keeping, up on the changes that, Napa has crime now, and we have situations, and how to deter those folks from coming to our community. And then, as she said, the politics, just trying to deal with keeping the council happy, or keeping the mayor. There's a lot of different facets of folks and groups that are going to rally and want to get the time and get their agenda heard. So it'll be fun. We'll bring him him or her lots of coffee.
Yes, the lifeblood of law enforcement is what I hear. Coffee is.
Coffee.
Thank you, Kelly. And I believe
Liz?
Liz would like to, no? Or already been mentioned in terms of the challenges? Already said, okay, no problem. Thank you, Liz. All right, well, that'll take us to our final question of the evening. What are the characteristics you are looking for in the next police chief for the city of Napa?
Okay, I'll go first. According to my boss, it's Sylvia, but you said no. I got an email. I thought she was staying. What's going on? I said, no, she's interim. So you bowled him over. So maybe she'll have a good idea of who we should be looking for. But, I just think that we want somebody that understands the community, that's progressive, that the community can embrace. And I think we're pretty reasonable group. And, we've embraced all sorts of different types of people. So I think having somebody that really cares about a community, is happy to be here, is just really important.
That's a great characteristics. Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly. Liz, see you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just thinking back. I keep aging myself, don't I? I was thinking back to, I was very involved in a lot of community things back when Dan Moniz was the police chief, and he was so approachable. And as a community organizer, he was very, very open and very approachable, very available. And that made such a difference to my impression of the police department. And I would really like to see someone like that again. I can't say that I've known a lot of the last chiefs because I haven't been quite as involved in community organizing, but I think being approachable and being willing to take part in community activities, whether it's on duty or off duty, actually really helps to bring the police chief really into our community of Napa.
Great. Thank you, Liz. So approachable, someone that's going to embrace the community, someone that is able to, we can replicate Chief Moyer, but unfortunately we can't do that, but some of those qualities as well. It's a good list. Kathy?
I gotta agree. Approachable and good charisma, can meet and talk with anybody. Very a nice person, and also progressive, ready and willing to jump in and take the town to a new progressive level, as slowly or fastly as we need to do it.
Great call. So add the progressive thinking to that list of attributes. Great. Well, yes, Liz, please.
Okay, so I thought of something else, and that is just, as someone mentioned earlier, like a lot of people in Napa don't like change, but change is happening very quickly actually here. And so it's kind of bringing along the people that have lived here all their lives and helping to integrate the communities some. There needs to be some work on somewhat accepting some of the tourists. I mean, we all recognize that there's more and more vacation homes being bought up here in Napa, which changes the dynamics of the neighborhoods. And, it needs somebody to understand that, because that actually, causes conflict between the citizens. And so as we said earlier, it's like being able to understand all of the different facets of Napa. Like there's a lot of different facets here, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of longevity. And so when I say that someone needs to be approachable, it's someone being open to understanding all those different groups so that we can move forward together.
That's great, Liz. So what I'm hearing is almost a mindset of inclusion for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. That's great.
Yeah, because we can't decide who's going to buy a house. If our neighbor's house goes up for sale, we can't decide that we don't want somebody there that's just going to buy it as a vacation house. I mean, my personal opinion is I'm glad that people protested against Picasso in a family neighborhood, but there's lots of people who buy these homes here in our neighborhoods for vacation homes, and we can't help that, but we can certainly cut down on the conflict.
Agreed. Thank you, Liz. Well, in terms of the slides and the presentations, I will stop sharing my screen now and let the rest of my collaborators say any last words. But thank you so much for all your input and all the great feedback you've provided this evening. Again, this is the same questions that we have on the online survey, which please spread the word with friends and family, even visitors. They're part of the community too. So I appreciate, again, your time, and I will hand it off to Heather.
Thank you, MJ.
But before Heather concludes it, I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see Kathy Odom's dog. Is it because the dog could not consent to being recorded?
Hey, Cage! Cage! Come here, sweetheart. Come here.
Can the dog consent to being recorded?
Come here. Come on. Mommy has pork chops for you. Come here. Let me see if you can see him. There he is.
Okay, there he is.
Yes,
Napa
he's
dog.
a good boy. He's very spoiled. Yes, you are. You're very spoiled. Yes. I got him at the shelter. He was 8 years old and couldn't barely walk. And so we have him. He's 9 and he limps, but we give him some medicine. He gets some anti-inflammatories and lots of love.
And pork chops. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I gave him a bone to shut him up.
Yes, Liz.
I want to thank you for doing this process. I just happened upon it this morning, like reading the paper, and I was really happy to see that this is happening. I think it's so important for this size of a community, and I kept taking myself offline here because my dog was barking. So it's like dogs are our family, and we have to pay attention to them in the evening after we're done working. So but I do really appreciate the inclusiveness. I wish more people had either seen it earlier or been able to come and participate, because it's really a wonderful thing to have this kind of process going on. I'm very pleased. Thank you.
So what, maybe someone can wrap it up quickly. What happens next? Is it already out? Are people already applying for it, or what's going on?
So I'll let Steve answer that. But I wanted to just tell people you can go ahead and spread the word. We are doing one more Zoom session tomorrow evening. So although that session will be primarily in Spanish, we will have the translator available. So anybody who would like to participate in either language could. So if you have friends or family members you'd like to encourage to participate, we do have another Zoom session tomorrow, or they can go online, and they'll have the same opportunity to complete those questions online, and they are open-ended, so they can fill out whatever information they want. So encourage people to do that, and I will kick it back over to Steve to go ahead and talk to us a little bit about where we're going.
So, and I too will say thank you very much to Liz, Kathy, and Kelly for being here. I really appreciate it. I think that for me, this is very valuable. Talked to Sylvia about it, talked to Heather about it, talked with MJ and Gabby, and we all understand the value in this town of having people who live here or work here involved in the process. So to be a little more specific to your question, what happens next is HR will take all the information that they receive in the online surveys and then these meetings, the in-person meetings, as well as the Zoom meetings, and they will compile that for me. And then after I review that, depending on how definitive it is, it will determine what the next steps are in the process. So I'm going to wait to get that, and we'll go from there. So, and if you have friends who can't make the meeting, if they go to www.cityofnapa.org/police chief, they can fill out the survey themselves. We welcome as many as we can get. And anyway, www.cityofnapa.org/police chief. And we're there. And it's always good to hear very positive things about Sylvia. I'm going to plug her because she's coming up on the end. The PERS rules are you can only work 960 hours after you have retired. So Sylvia was very nice and came back to work out of retirement for us. I've known Sylvia by reputation for years. She is one of the top professionals in her job in the state of California. And it was like when I heard that she was available and she might do this, I said, I want not only one of those, I would like to have two of those, one as an interim and one as a full-time person. So I don't think that we could have done any better with getting her here. There are a lot of retired chiefs who approach these type jobs as a retired chief, but Sylvia jumped into it with both feet. Again, her ethics, her work ethic, her who she is as a person. If I could say more nice things, I would, but she's already going to yell at me pretty soon. So yeah. Anyway, I thank all of you, and I don't know if anybody else has anything that they would like to add as well, but anyway, I appreciate it. Even the silent guy, Bernie.
I don't think he's here. I do have a question about, he is, I have a question about the timeline. As Sylvia's winding down, it sounds like, when do we have to have a new chief by? When would we like to have a new chief by?
I think that we would like to have a new chief as soon as possible. With this information, I think that I will get it back right around July 1st. That's when the survey closes. And as quickly after that as possible, I will determine whether which steps come next, whether we make a full-blown long process, or if we have somebody that fits into that position, what we do and move forward with it. So it could be relatively quick, but if Sylvia tells me that I have to go outside and find somebody, then that could take a few months. So she almost smiled there, but she held it back. Yeah. Anyway, I wish I could be more definitive, but it depends on what the community input is on this.
Yeah, so you've answered my question, which is we don't have an ad out yet.
We do not have an ad out yet. Correct. Yeah, and I'm still trying to get her to stay.
Well, clearly we're working on that. When
Yeah.
Todd gets back from North Carolina, I'll have him call her.
Yeah, her fan club gets bigger and bigger every day. And she likes dogs.
Torture. It's torture.
How could you not want to stay in this beautiful community?
Kelly, just a quick thing here. When Steve called and told me of this opportunity, it was easy to say yes because of this professional team and this community. And so it's been remarkable. And I will say more about it later, but it's been a true gift in restoring my soul and really strengthening my soul. They're incredible people here. They're committed to really serving Napa. So it's been a delight. and the boss isn't half bad.
Good.
The most loved
He's a nice
man,
guy.
the most loved
guy.
man in all of Napa.
Yes.
He used to keep M&Ms in the drawer for me when I got mad.
Which drawer?
Bribery.
Pardon?
Which drawer? Can you
His top left drawer, I believe. I don't remember.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, just pay me in M&Ms. I'll do anything.
All right. Well, I want to really say thank you, and also to the staff for being here. Gabby, if you couldn't tell, this was her first major Zoom event.
Awesome.
And I think that she did an incredible job. So excellent job. MJ is always the professional, always keeps things going. Heather, she's the whip cracker over there in HR. But if you haven't, and Kelly, you're around downtown all the time. You got to stop by HR at some point. We can talk about the partnership between the properties there and the city of Napa more, and how, like, if you need employees down there and we have applicants here, maybe we can refer some over that direction as well. So,
Well, Lindsay's been looking. Our tenants are all looking for staff. You know, it's a real situation, I think, across the board.
Yes.
In the communities throughout the United States. You know, when you can make more money staying home, why not?
yeah.
Sorry.
And Liz, I must have missed you over at Crisis, because I started over at the Sheriff's Department as a reserve in '79, full-time in '81. And anyway, she's going to go. Actually, I remember you now. You used to do a bunch
The
of
issue is my name back then was Patty.
Patty.
And I changed it along the way after I moved out of Napa. So I go by my middle name now, but it was
Okay.
Patty back then.
Okay.
But yes, it was quite an experience, and I still appreciate all the things that Jim Featherstone taught me. And I'm still, you know, very concerned about this community and hope to continue being involved.
Yeah, and I think Sylvia's got it going the right direction, or continuing it with the embedded mental health worker that's over there. They help out quite a bit. So you're spot on with. I'm a proponent for spending a lot more money toward mental health as well at the state level. It needs to happen. So
Yes.
yeah. And Kathy, thank you very much for joining in and for sharing Muffy the Wonder Dog. That was wonderful.
His name is Cage. That's the name he came with, so we kept it.
Yeah, that's kind of a, I don't know that that's a good name for a dog. Cage.
Cage, I don't know. He had the name for 8 years, so I kind of had to go with it. But
Yeah.
he knows a lot.
It'd be like naming your dog Biter. Yeah, come here, Biter.
He did not like. He was fine until he saw the UPS guy. He heard him. He just did not like. That was the only one guy he didn't like.
Yeah, that's good. So I don't know if Bernie was trying to talk a minute ago.
I thought so. He kind of came on for a second. Bernie?
It's a wonderful picture. There
Maybe
he is.
he's.
There we go.
Just with my girls while I'm listening. So just listening.
Okay.
Everyone.
Well, thanks for being here. All right. And I will say, unless anybody has anything else they want to throw out there, thank you very much. It's been very informative. I personally really appreciate this. I think this is going to help us out quite a bit moving this forward. So anyway.
Okay. Excellent.
you.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank-
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Napa.